Hello, everyone. I was not sure that we were recording. Sorry. Welcome to the review episode of The Wayward Dragons. I am Johnny.
And I'm Kelsey. And welcome, where we talk about books, movies, video games that we've been playing.
And it gives us a chance to bitch and moan about things as well.
Yes, this is true. Have you?
Overall, I'm okay. I've got a long weekend because, we're recording this the weekend of the 4th of July, which means that they actually gave us yesterday off, today off, and then I have Monday and Tuesday off. So I have a massive 4-day weekend, and then we've got a new general manager at work who's supposedly cutting out overtime. So hopefully I'll have energy to do a lot of things soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yep, and I won't look like death or feel like death constantly. Other than that, I'm annoyed with the U.S. legal system.
Yeah.
For those who have not been following, the Supreme Court in the United States does a lot of stupid stuff.
Yes.
And they've done more stupid stuff recently. The reason why I say that is because they, of course, denied or cited against any sort of debt relief for student debt. I personally don't have student debt, but I know a lot of people do. A lot of friends of mine do.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's screwing the economy even more.
Yeah. Yeah, because those loans are hard to get out from under.
They've got rid of affirmative action, which is, has its plus and minus, because without affirmative action, that means that there's a lot of people who won't be getting into college that should be getting into college, but they're not going to let them in because, color of their skin.
Yeah.
Because this country's hella racist in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
They're cool with legacies. They have all these people who have went there before, parents went there before, grandparents, and people who paid money, and they're just like, hey, you can totally come to college here. We're not even going to question it because your family came here, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
They sided with a, I don't. Are you familiar with the stuff with the web designer?
No. Is this the one where they refused service? Is that this?
Sorry, one more time?
Where they somebody refused service to a gay couple.
It wasn't even that. No. So it was web design.
I was like,
but it was
kind
of that.
All over
it was kind of that, but it wasn't exactly that. So basically, it was a web designer who went up and hypothetically, they were never even asked to make a web page for a gay couple. They hypothetically, if they were asked, they wanted the right to say no. The name of the person they gave that supposedly asked them wasn't even involved in the situation. He wasn't even gay. He was a straight man. And they sided with the person, which, while I agree that people have a right to who they serve, on one side, on the other side, that creates a whole list of issues because, you've got all these freaking idiots out here who are going to take and start denying people for whatever reason based off of, sexuality, gender identity. It's going to end up getting into race and everything else, denying people based off their religious ideology. And it's opening up a whole can of worms. But as per usual, the Supreme Court doesn't care because they want to push their religious values out on people. And that's really all it is they want to push their religious values and use the U.S. court system and the law system to do that.
Yeah, well, we had this a couple years ago where it was either in Oregon or Washington State. This bakery refused to make a cake for, I want to say, a lesbian couple, maybe.
I think it was a gay couple, but yeah,
it was a gay couple, whether it was gay men or two lesbians, and that opened a can of worms then. And my husband and I were kind of talking about this last night. In the U.S., you do have the right to refuse service to anyone. You do, and you don't even have to give a reason. You can say, "Hey, I'm not going to serve you," and that might be because you're being rude or you're displaying things that they don't like as a business. They have the absolute right to refuse you service. Now, whether it's because you're being rude or if that's because you're gay, that's on you. If you're being rude, I have every right to tell you, you need to get out. And if you just happen to be gay, that's not why I'm kicking you out. I'm kicking you out because you're treating me, your server, like shit. Like, so it is double-edged, where it is going to open this big can of worms where people are going to use that excuse for everything under the sun. And that came out when that couple got refused service. Same thing happened.
And there were a lot of states that were trying to pass laws that, like, bled into this. And here's the biggest issue I see is that some states were trying to pass laws where people who, like paramedics and stuff or doctors could deny service to people because their gender identity or their religion did not match or their, sexual orientation did not match the beliefs of the person providing the service. I'm sorry, but your job, you take an oath, your job is to sit there and help people. And I am deathly afraid that that's where this is going to end up, is that, people aren't going to be able to go to the doctor because the doctor's anti-queer.
Yeah. Well, you even have that with certain women. They're not prescribed birth control because the doctor has religious rights. It's against their religion to prescribe it. Well, then why are you in a profession like that?
Yep, exactly.
Like, your religion doesn't take precedence over what I want for my body. But I think honestly, I think the only refusal should be in food service or customer service in general. Like, you come into a restaurant and you're acting like a butthole, you're out. Sorry. Like, you're not going to talk to me that way, and you're not going to talk to anybody within my restaurant that way.
Right.
But going into medical care, all right, you have to take that out. You can't be biased.
The issue, and that's the issue, though, is that that's what it's going to end up being. Is we can't have nice things because people suck.
Yeah, it's like, guys, sorry, but in medical, you have to take it out. But if you're going up to somebody that's providing a service of some form, especially with food, like, we had an incident at my other job a couple weeks ago where these kids were coming in and they were being extremely rude. And we had to kick them off the property because they were just being very ungrateful. I'm going to tell my mom. Go tell your mom, because I'm going to tell your mom, and I'm going to show her the cameras of how you were being ungrateful and throwing water and custard and stuff all over the front of the patio that I had to go clean up again. Like, you're being rude, so I'm going to refuse you service because you're being extremely rude and throwing water everywhere. Like, I have the right to tell you.
And it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, like, that's one of those moments of like, okay, like, I have every right to tell you no. And like that bakery up in Washington or Oregon, they do have a right to say no. Everybody has the right to say no. I've refused orders because I bake and stuff out of my own home. I've told people no. It's more of a time constraint, but I don't have time for some things. Or it's too complicated and I just don't want to fuck with it.
Like I said, it's a double-edged.
Yeah.
It's very like when Walmart denied the father putting his kid's name on the cake because he was a white supremacist and he named his kid Adolf Hitler.
I will say,
and he wanted to cake that said "Happy Birthday, Adolf Hitler," and they said, I believe, I don't remember if the person behind the counter was Jewish or not, but they were just like, no, fuck that, not doing it.
Like, and they have the right to say no. Like, no, I'm not writing this. But I will say, in the U.S., I think that there should be just some names that are not legal. I forget where it is in Europe, but you have to submit your child's name before they're born. I forget what country it is, but they're in Europe somewhere. You submit your child's name for the government to approve, and if they don't like it, you have to pick something different for one of
The
those
issue with
reasons.
that is they're going to start denying ethnic names.
Yes.
Because like people cannot get jobs because of ethnic names, and that's what's would end up being the issue there.
Yeah, but I think in the U.S., like, I don't think you should be allowed to name your kid that. I don't think anybody in the world should be allowed to name their child Adolf Hitler. That's just
his daughter's name was like Aryan Nation or something like that. Yeah, this guy was a real work of art.
Wow, how far into the Bible Belt do they live? Holy shit!
Not at all, actually. Let me look. Actually, it may have been. I think it was. Was this in Ohio?
Weird shit happens in Ohio. Definitely the Florida of the Midwest. Definitely the Florida of the Midwest.
Let's see here.
Look, I have no idea. I try to stay away from the news.
Oh, this was from Jersey.
Oh! I mean, they're kind of wacko out there, but...
I'm going to send you a picture of this guy. And you'll be like, yeah, no, this is exactly the type of person I would see naming their kid Adolf Hitler.
You can kind of, like, guess it with some people. You're like, yep, this fucker is weird.
All right, there you go. Take a look at this guy.
Oh, yeah. He looks like he married his cousin.
I was thinking that.
One of those people.
I was thinking that. I'm like, is that a sister cousin?
I don't know.
He married a sister cousin?
Not too far from the Virginias, where that is quite common. That's funny. That is funny. Well, do you want me to go first, or how many books?
Oh, yeah, no, we should totally do that.
I was like, how many did you read?
Well, I finished the book series I was working on. Okay. Finally. So, but yeah, you go ahead and go.
So I started Gail Martin's Assassins of Landria series. So I read the first one. Gail Martin is actually one of my favorite authors next to Tolkien. I love her Chronicles of the Necromancer series. I think that's an amazing series. But basically, there's these two assassins that work for the king in the book. And it's very rare that assassins work together, but they've kind of trauma bonded in a way. Like, through an orphanage. They were orphans. And they figure out that there's a revolution plot against the king. But no one believes them because this witch king keeps, like, messing with the minds of everyone. Your face. So I started that. I haven't started book 2 yet. And then I started this series called Arrowwood by Mark Finlay. So it takes place at the same time as Sherlock Holmes. And he's like Sherlock Holmes, but he relies on people's body language to give him the clues.
Right.
So the first one, this brother goes missing, and the quote sister wants to find out where he is. And you find out there's more to the story. The sister is lying, but it's a plot to go after someone that they've been going after for a very long time. this guy named Cream who owns like this prostitution smuggling ring in the book. I'm on the second one called Murder Pit. I don't know if I'm going to finish that one. I probably will just suck it up and finish it, only because it deals with a lot of people with Down syndrome in the book, and during Victorian times, people with Down syndrome weren't called that because that word didn't come up till the 1960s, so they're called Mongolian idiots. I know. And I'm just like, are Mongols. It is hard to remember that like they're calling someone like retarded.
Yeah, it's that's words and like phonology and all that changes over time, but it's some of the stuff that has been said is just it's I don't
know. Like that's kind of, so I don't know, but like this girl with Downs is married off, and her husband's family's not letting her talk to her family, and it's causing problems, and so I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. And then I read The Last Call, a true story of love, lust, and murder in queer New York by Elon Green.
Okay.
That one was a weird one. So it obviously takes place right after, or not right after, but right before Stonewall, what causes us to have pride in the U.S., the riots. But basically, there's a serial killer in New York that's killing gay men. And you find out that it's someone that everyone knew that was inconspicuous. And this was very much during when HIV and AIDS was very rampant, and a lot of gay men were dying. And it's a book a lot about the gay scene in New York around that time. And it's a very long case that takes decades for them to figure out who has killed all these gay men. They eventually put it together of who's done it, but it's a book that's very great on dissecting the gay scene during that time. So that was kind of eye-opening. That was kind of interesting to read. So because they didn't want to investigate the crimes, like law enforcement were like, oh, they're gay guys, like whatever. So it's very interesting. And then I listened to, this has been a popular one, and it's popped up on my Audible list a couple of times. If You Tell, a true story of murder, family secrets, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood by Gregg Olson. Now, if you have a lot of triggers, don't read that. Do not read that. So it's about the story of three sisters who were subject to horrific, and I mean horrific, abuse at the hand of their mom. Their mom was someone that should have never had children. Like, displaying psychopathic tendencies as a kid. Like, we should have never let her have children. And it tells the story of the sisters and how eventually the sisters get out, but the horrific abuse that their mom puts them through, that she puts through three people that she murders. And it's, if you are very easily triggered, get nauseous super easily, can't handle just gross shit in general, don't. It was good. horrific and very sad. I felt very sad for those girls at the end. Their mom is batshit and should have never had them. She should have never been allowed to have children. What?
Unfortunately, that happens more often than.
Yeah. Yeah. So, those are the 4 I've read. Because I'm listening to All the Missing Girls, where the book is told backwards.
Huh?
So, All the Missing Girls, I forget who it's by. But it's a story. It's not girls. It's 2 girls. It's 2. It's not like all these girls go missing in this town. But this girl, her dad has like dementia, and sends her a note saying, "I saw her," meaning the girl that went missing. Like, because it's the girls disappear like 10 years apart, and one was a best friend of the main character, and the other one was like the most recent's like a girlfriend of a friend, and it's told backwards. So you go from day 15 to day 1.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why they chose to do it that
I don't
way.
know.
That's interesting.
I don't know. I'm trying to go through the books I have at my house. So that's one of them. So what about you? What did you read?
All the things. No. Every book I read. So I finally was able to finish The Golden Darkness Descends and then Shattered Sunlight by J.M.D. Reid. They were the last 2 books in the Storm Below series. I've talked about, it's been a few episodes, but I talked about kind of the premise of the book series before, just kind of as a recap. It takes place in a world where the main civilization, quote unquote, part of the civilization lives on these floating islands, and there's like different nations, and there's airships that travel to and fro. The main character sets off on or around the summer solstice with his best friend and his girlfriend to go to the capital, because in their culture, every solstice, all those who have come of age 17 years in the past, or since the previous one, has to go and receive a gift from the goddess that they worship.
Okay.
And so it's like their blessing from her, and so it's like different abilities depending on what you get. He's always had a fascination and obsession with wanting to join the Navy and become a Marine if possible. If he had like certain gifts, his lady doesn't want him to, so he makes an agreement with her that he won't. He'll just ready to settle down with her and have a farm with her and all this other stuff. Okay. And there's the possibility that if you don't volunteer, you can get drafted.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't volunteer. And after the blessing thing, they meet up and they like name over the people who have volunteered, people who are being drafted into military service. And his best friend and his girlfriend get drafted.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, fuck. So he goes and like begs to be let in, and they let him join. And then there's, of course, drama involved with it, but it's like a magical fantasy military-esque thing. Of course, things are not what they seem. People are not who they seem. He has that during the blessing ceremony, some things come to light about the main character's past, and he is very differently blessed than most of the other people, and so he's got assassins trying to hunt him down and everything else. Below the floating islands in the sky, it's the eternal storm, and where they believe that the storm goddess is, and there's cyclones that hit the land, and then you have they call them storm riders, which are people who are down below the storm on the land before it, like, what was left. And they come up and, they fight the people up top, and there's a whole debate on who the bad guys are and everything else. Without giving away too many more spoilers, overall, very enjoyable series. As always, I do have a few things in the series I don't like. I'm not really going to go into those. It's mainly just the predictability aspect because it's me and I predict things way too easily.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
I mean, that's really it for me. Nothing too spectacular. Have I watched anything new?
It's like we've been watching the new Cold Case season on Netflix.
Gotcha. How's that?
It's okay. Like my problem is when I come home from both my jobs, I have about like half hour to 45 minutes before I have to like take a shower and get ready to go to bed and get ready for the next day. So I like to watch stuff that's mindless. Like I can kind of pay attention, but surf Facebook for the first time in my day type thing. So, it's just something that my husband can put on in the background while we eat. So, I mean, they're interesting cases. Don't get me wrong; they're very interesting cases. He's been watching Suits. He started Suits, so that was on USA for a very long time. So he's liking that right now. But that's all. Huh. It's like I'm in the last month of having both jobs, so
you'll have time to relax soon. Hopefully, we both need it. We both need time to relax. And
yeah, it's like I can't wait. It's one of those things of ironically, I hit 14 years this week, this upcoming Wednesday after 4th of July, and it's just like I never imagined staying at that job that long. I've met some very incredible people, but holy shit, I never imagined staying there that long. And to know that the toxicity is finally coming to an end, like I no longer care. Like my boss was just going off on a tirade. I was just like, whatever, dude. He managed to break a hand jack. I was like, okay, not real sure how you managed to do that, but whatever. It's your problem. Like,
I mean, there were all sorts of interesting people when I worked with you, so I can only imagine.
So many interesting people. I mean, they get dumber and dumber, but I've met some very interesting people. I've met some people that I've taken as my family, and but other than this select few,
they got dumber than that one guy. What was his name? Who was the one guy that you had worked with at a previous store, and then like he worked at our store, then you came to our store? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Was he our head meat? Was he a department head?
No. This was a guy in the deli. He was like,
I have no idea. I've worked with a lot of.
I don't know. He was bizarre.
Like one of the ladies I work with at the custard shop, she is going to school to be a lawyer. All right, she's incredibly book smart, and we were talking about the recent thing that's been going on with the Titanic, where the submarine imploded.
Oh yeah, that did happen.
And she looks at me and she goes, "Well, isn't that how you get to outer space? They're just in outer space." And I was like, "Brittany, what do you mean?" "Well, that's how you get to outer space. You go through the ocean." It was like, I was like, Like, Brittany? Like, that's...
Sorry, that's the only response I could give to that was just get up and walk away.
I'm like, you are studying to be an NFL draft lawyer, and you're telling me that we get to outer space by going through the ocean. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, you know what? I am done for the day. It is my time to go. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. She's incredibly book smart, incredibly an intelligent human being. Not
so
all
I'm curious about something that I'm looking up now, so
like, ooh. Yeah. That was my little nugget of holy shit. I think the people I work with are just getting dumber and dumber and dumber.
Alright, let's see if this shows me what I want to see. It does not. Trying to figure out where the US stands in as far as education systems globally.
Oh, we're like down in the bottom. We are down in the bottom. For sure. We are every time. So our education system sucks.
Well, like many things. Okay, whoever made this is obviously wrong. Countries with the best education systems. They had the United States as number 1. That's not true. Japan actually has the best education system.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. This is... I can see that. Okay, so according to a Global Citizen Human Rights Survey in 2020, the top 10 in order are from 10 to 1. South Korea, Singapore, the Netherlands, Israel, Germany, Sweden, Canada, Japan, Finland, and Denmark.
Okay.
I'm not sure where we actually rank overall, but let's see here. Yeah, I don't know who did this ranking for this year because this is definitely not right. Because it has the U.S. as number 1.
Yeah, that just goes to show that you can never really truly believe everything you read on the internet.
Well, that's why I was looking for a decent news source, but everything's giving different answers. Anyways, we're not up there.
Yeah. Oh,
nowhere close.
No.
But I think that kind of concludes our
review episode.
Time for this episode. Hopefully I didn't botch last week's episode too bad. If you guys haven't listened to last week, talked about mental health with Satanic Panic and Michelle Remembers and all that fun stuff. I'd say definitely check it out. But again, I don't know how well I did or how much I botched it. So listen at your own risk. Next week, we are going to be double teaming
our last episode.
The last episode for the series. And then we are getting into some different types of stuff.
Yeah, more lighthearted stuff. Talking about different type of mother goddesses and superstitions and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, and then we're going to be talking about, I believe, going into like cryptids again.
Yeah. Yeah. All sorts of fun stuff. But yeah. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Please tell a friend. And then join us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The hands that you see in YouTube videos are my hands. If we've messed anything up, or if you have a book recommendation that you think one of us would like, you can email us at thewaywarddragons@gmail.com. That is in the show notes description thing. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yep, I think that's everything. So until next time, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Kelsey. Bye.
Bye.